Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and also on TikTok. There are links in the description below. I saw a really weird article, and I'll give it to you this way. I saw a really weird article, and I've been seeing more of them in like a bullish, slow down kind of tone. For instance, one of them was talking about the actual accumulation rate of a lot of companies within the cryptocurrency space. And they mentioned something along the lines of they think that in the next 5 or 6 years, that the ETFs within the United States would have over 2 million Bitcoin. For context, for those of you who don't know, it took them 14 months, actually 13, but now we're 14 months. 14 months to accumulate 1.5 million Bitcoin. And I was like, if it took them 14 months to do that, what makes you think that they are going to wait an additional 6 years for another 500,000 Bitcoin when we have the United States of America, multiple countries within the Middle East, all publicly buying and accumulating Bitcoin? Do you think these ETFs are just going to simply, no, let them eat. We don't need any more Bitcoin, like that kind of thing? It's a little weird. There was another article that I think we went over or discussed. I don't remember. There's a lot happening in crypto news at any given time that was discussing, and once again, it wasn't said negatively. That article that I was talking about was said from the vantage point of, it's amazing, it's going to happen. It'll take time for us to get there, but it's going to happen. They're going to do it. And I was like, okay. Another article was talking about the accumulation levels of companies. And they were saying that, here's the weird part. They were expecting that it would take about another decade, 10 years, for the companies in general, to have accumulated all leftover Bitcoin. This one rubbed me the wrong way because I don't know if those articles were written by AI. I don't know if the person just got into the cryptocurrency space and doesn't know how to count. We have, and when I tell you, I'm a little late on it, but it's still incredibly relevant. When I tell you what happened, you're going to be like, well, who the heck would think otherwise? On my other channel called The Modern Investor, hello, when we go over like multiple topics in daily cryptocurrency news. So here we'll kind of have like a more focused thing, but there we'll talk about 7, 8 different 9 stories that happened over the course of the day because there's always a lot happening within this space. We will hear on any given day, not every other day, not once a week, not once every 2.5, 3 weeks, every day. This company just bought 143 Bitcoin. That company just put $114 million into Bitcoin. That company, who's been accumulating Bitcoin for 7 months, now has 3,000 Bitcoin. I'm talking about MicroStrategy, Meta Money. The one that's in Japan, MetaPlanet, has a stupid name. MetaPlanet. They recently announced that they purchased another couple of whatever Bitcoin. They have, I think, 2,000 or 3,000 Bitcoin. They're trying to, by the end of this year, one company get to 10,000 Bitcoin. One company, 10,000 Bitcoin. And they're hoping, or they're what they want to do is by next year, they want to have 21,000 Bitcoin. That's one company. So when I saw this like 10-year time frame, I was like, what the fudge are you talking about? Because the numbers just don't actually make any sense. The other really weird article, for context, for those of you who do not know, the last number I saw, I'm not going to look it up, whatever. The last number I saw was 2 million Bitcoin left on crypto exchanges. That caused a bit of a tizzy a couple of months ago. Because we kept on getting news that the amount of Bitcoin on crypto exchanges continuously is dropping. It's major news. We've been going over this for years. The other news is that the amount of Bitcoin on the OTC market, the over-the-counter market, is also dropping. And a lot of people were like, it's not doing anything to the price. And I was like, yeah, because of manipulation. They're trying to make sure how to get as much Bitcoin as possible while the price is still low. The other part is that people keep forgetting that all that Bitcoin isn't liquid. So the idea or the misconception is basically that, well, there's 2 million Bitcoin left on exchanges, therefore it's going to take 2 million Bitcoin for there to be zero or like whatever. No, people are holding on to those coins. So you know how like a lot of people have ledgers, people also use Binance, Coinbase, and Kraken as like exchanges where they have like a portion of their coins on them. These coins are not meant to be sold. They're literally just kept on different platforms for like safekeeping. So those coins aren't all ready to be purchased. There aren't 2 million Bitcoin up for buy orders. That's not how any of this actually works. So realistically, it's going to take a year to a year, and that's before we start ripping and roaring back in prices again. With prices currently stable like this, it'll take them a year and a half to absorb the rest of those coins. We've already talked about before that there's like seller exhaustion and retail exhaustion. Retail investors got into the market a couple of months ago, bought a bunch of meme coins. It didn't work out for them. They sold their holdings. They don't want to get back into the market right now. The only people who are really buying is maybe you, but also institutions, banks, and countries, which is also crazy that the market isn't going crazier, that we know that all these people are in the freaking market. So if we talk, I'm going to give you the numbers and we're going to go forward because I really want you to have context for this. Like I said, I'm a little bit late. This happened a couple of days ago. I apologize. I'm trying to do 1,000 things at once. MicroStrategy announced that they bought more Bitcoin. They were doing this really weird thing at the beginning of the year, which I was like, please stop, for the love of goodness. They kept on announcing that they were going to take a break. We're going to take a break. And I was like, you guys didn't take a break at all. They were buying Bitcoin the very next day, every time they said they were going to take a break. MicroStrategy so the discussion was last year, and like this was like everyone was like, oh my gosh, you can't believe it. It took MicroStrategy 2 years to acquire 200,000 Bitcoin. Hear my words and hear them good. 2 years to acquire 200,000 Bitcoin. The major news that popped up last year was that it took BlackRock, I think 3 or 4 months to accumulate 300,000 Bitcoin. That was the major news. They're like completely, because there was like this, like, is there a rivalry? And I was like, who cares? They're rich. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, you know, that they absorbed so many coins within a short period of time while it took MicroStrategy 2 years. And I'm air quoting here. I think I can speak for us all when I say I would love to have the first world problem that it took me 2 years to accumulate 200,000 Bitcoin. What a problem to have. Am I right? If it took me 8 million years, I could not get there. So 2 years was absolutely nothing. MicroStrategy announced that they're still now trying to raise their $42 billion US dollars to buy up a lot of Bitcoin. We also had news about 10 days ago, if you remember, MicroStrategy keeps buying up Bitcoin. And this isn't part of their $42 billion that they're accumulating. So everything that we've seen them buying is literally like just side money. Side money. They haven't raised their $42 billion yet. They just announced that they bought more Bitcoin. You know how much Bitcoin MicroStrategy currently has? MicroStrategy currently has 506,137 Bitcoin. And for the sake of argument, let's slide the top off and just say a good 500,000 Bitcoin. It took this company 3 years to accumulate 500,000 Bitcoin when they weren't really trying. Their earlier purchases, for those of you who didn't see, were like 3,000 Bitcoin, 1,100 Bitcoin, 880. Those were the olden days when they were doing that. By the time November rolled around, you remember we were getting news. They just bought 47,000 Bitcoin. They just bought 51,000 Bitcoin. They just bought 37,000. I mean, these were like weeks after each other. The news basically being is that MicroStrategy is desperately trying to front run the United States before the United States tries to get 1 million Bitcoin. 500,000 Bitcoin in 3 years. Let's go over some logical numbers. For those of you who don't know, Michael Saylor, the CEO of MicroStrategy, has announced that they don't want 1 million Bitcoin. They want all the Bitcoin. They want all of them. Like not 1 million. They want like 1.7 million. They want 2.2 million. They're going to keep on buying, he said, until they literally can't like buy anymore. Like there's literally no more on the market. They want all of them. If it took them 3 years to get 500,000 when they weren't really trying, that $42 billion that they're trying to raise and all the other monies that they keep using this year, you know they're going to get over 1 million Bitcoin probably by the end of this year, right? So going backwards to that 2 million Bitcoin that's on crypto exchanges, you know, realistically, and if we can be honest with ourselves, it's maybe half, maybe 40% that's actually like up for grabs. That gives us another 1 million Bitcoin. What did I say about the United States accumulating Bitcoin before? It's not going to work out the way that the public thinks it's going to work out. The United States is trying to get to 1 million Bitcoin. If there's realistically only 1 million Bitcoin left for grabs, what's the tug of war going to be like? Either the United States is going to buy all the crypto left on exchanges, or it's going to be MicroStrategy and BlackRock. You're also forgetting the other 8 ETF issuers are also still buying all the time as well. People have this really weird misconception that you'll hear in the news that the inflows for some of those other ETFs, let's expand it to the ETFs in Canada, the ETFs in Europe, you name it. Like there are Bitcoin ETFs everywhere. On any given day, we might get the news that their inflows, we're used to hearing like big numbers for the ETF inflows because of BlackRock. If BlackRock is doing $114 million, $28 million worth of inflows, the other ETFs on any given day are doing around 1.4 million. They're doing around 2.7 million in inflows. Now you sit there and you go, well, that's not really impressive. Well, guess what? Numbers. If you have $1 million worth of inflows for one ETF, that's 10 Bitcoin taken off the table. If you do that for the 40 Bitcoin ETFs around the world, was that 300, 400 Bitcoin that's gone just from the smaller ones. You haven't equated MicroStrategy, who's also doing the exact same thing, but literally like 10 times more ridiculous. You're not taking into account the amount of Bitcoin that Tether's also accumulating, that the other states within the United States are also purchasing. You're also missing and forgetting, remember all the sovereign wealth funds? Remember we kept on hearing a lot of the Nordic countries, you can Google it. A lot of the Nordic countries own millions and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin through the ETFs. The ETFs are spot. So regardless of if you buy it from Coinbase or BlackRock, they're still buying up Bitcoin that's not re-entering the market. Do you remember the other number that we had? Of all the money inside of the Bitcoin ETFs, anytime that we keep hearing about outflows, it's the same 5% that's leaving out and then coming back in. 95% of the money in the Bitcoin ETFs isn't moving. It's being held there forever. The other 5% we know is leaving whenever there are outflow days. And then we get news that whales purchased again, and that the money goes right back into the funds, but even more than the previous time. The article that I was reading was discussing that they think it'll take MicroStrategy almost another decade to get to 1 million Bitcoin. And I was like, that's where I was like, maybe you don't know numbers very well. MicroStrategy is probably going to have, realistically, between 800,000 to 1 million Bitcoin by the end of this year. This is what happens like when we're talking about the supply shock. I'm not going to go into the whole thing about manipulation and futures and keeping the price down so that rich people can buy up more, but you have to see what's going on, right? You know that prices will not remain this low forever. These people have figured out an evil genius way of accumulating all these coins while everyone else is sleeping and not paying attention. I know it sounds very cliche, like he's sleeping on the price, bro. But no, this is exactly what's going on. When I saw this, I was like, I knew it. I knew that there was no confusion in my mind that it was going to take them this long at all to get to 500,000. But I think the mentality within the cryptocurrency space and the cryptocurrency market is kind of like, if this news doesn't directly influence price, why would anyone, and I think that's a good 80-90% of people, why would anyone care? If we see that prices begin to rise, and I mean, let's say we get to a good $120, $130, $140, $150,000 Bitcoin. More people are going to begin, more normal people, everyday normal people are going to begin to accumulate more Bitcoin. There's not enough Bitcoin for these institutions. For the institutions. There's not enough full Bitcoin for every millionaire and billionaire on the planet. At this point, there's not enough for them to even have half of a coin. Think about that. We are in a really weird cycle. It's a lot of factors contributing to it, obviously. But this is the weirdest time period that we've ever had in economics and also in cryptocurrency economics. The way that it normally works is that we tend to hear from MicroStrategy that they're going to be doing something or something's going to happen or blah, blah, blah. Like they always have like a, hey, we're trying to raise more money. I assume April, May, by the middle or end of May, I want to say end of May, they're going to have 600 or 700,000 Bitcoin. That's not a guess. It's kind of like a complete certainty at this point. So, yeah, I think this is going to, and I say this over and over, but I think this is going to continuously reshape world markets, especially as more countries get into this. But these institutions are doing a incredibly good job of making sure that people aren't paying attention and that they're buying all the Bitcoin. We've been going over this for years, and I saw people years ago who were skeptical, and I'm like, I don't get at any point how you don't understand that it'll take another 115 years to get to 21 million Bitcoin. 6 million Bitcoin are lost and gone forever. And those other, we talk about institutions and banks and blah, 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 blah all the time. Those other addresses are still active, right? The addresses who are buying 150 Bitcoin per day, 100 Bitcoin per day, 200 Bitcoin per day. Like, they're still actively going. So there's not as much time as you think that there actually is. Well, $500,000 Bitcoin, 500,000 Bitcoin in 3 years. Yeah, I gave it to December. I hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.